All right, folks. I'm going to call the Thursday, April 17th Borough Council business meeting to order. Let's continue with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dobbs, will you call the roll?
Yes. President Bush?
Here.
Vice President Rickards? Here. Councilmember Winston?
Here.
Councilmember Borough?
Here.
Councilmember Spear?
Here.
Councilmember Gardini?
Here.
Councilmember Simonson?
Here.
And Mayor Deutsch?
Here.
Very good.
My comments this week are going to be a little more local. We have an agenda item to discuss the proposed SEPTA cuts, but if these cuts go through, they would close down the Paoli-Thorndale line, which would be fundamentally terrible for the borough. Our identity is built around this train station. Our name came from the train company. The settlement came from the train company. Santa comes on the train here. We really can't lose our train. So I urge anybody who's listening here to please reach out. Our state rep, Mary Jo Daly, was at a recent rally in downtown Philadelphia on behalf of getting more SEPTA money. I've seen her photo and I've spoken to her about the issue, but really it's state level Senate Republicans who are limiting the budgets. If you happen to know a Republican state senator or happen to have any contact with one, that would be the right person to speak to. Otherwise,
Or
you can just,
your friends or relatives.
yeah, if you have any friend of a friend who can reach out to a Republican state senator. Otherwise, you can thank Mary Jo for her strong support on behalf of SEPTA, and believe our state senator Amanda Capoletti is also strongly in favor of SEPTA funding. But you can thank them for being champions. But reach out and do what you can. We're going to be working on it as well as much as we can. So. That's it for my comments. Mayor Deutsch?
We are coming up to the time of year again with the Narberth Run. I'd like to congratulate them as this is their 30th year. So it's a big anniversary year for them. As usual, we will be shutting down the streets in Narberth that morning, Saturday, April 26th. The run starts at 9, I believe, and so the streets will be shut down earlier, planned by at least 8:30. If you need to get out of the borough for the next couple hours after they're shut down, it's probably advisable to park outside the route so that you can walk to your car and get where you need to go out ahead of time. We do not want drivers driving through the route for everybody's safety. But there will be further notices that will be put out, and we'll let people know. But just a reminder, it's that time of year again, and please pay attention to those things.
Yeah. Thank you. Ms. Dobbs, do you have a report?
Absolutely. So a couple things to hit on. So just quickly building off of we have the run on the morning of the 26th. And that evening we have Parks and Rec is hosting our movie night in the park, in Narberth Park. So we're going to be watching The Sandlot. That is at 7 p.m. 7:30. Thanks, Jeff. 7:30 p.m. So it's going to be a really fun day in the borough. So come for the run, grab lunch in town, and then stick around for the movie in the night. All right. A couple other things. We're making progress on our new website. So we did finalize the design for the website. So we have all of our color schemes, all of our palettes, everything layout-wise has been finalized. The next step is that we're going to be working on the site mapping. So this is really the actual bones of the website. So the site mapping is going to say where all of the various sections live and what are the main sections, what are the subsections, and what pages go under what sections. So this is really where the actual hard work comes in. So we're going to be continuing to work on that with Councilmember Simonson. Some other good news, we were awarded the low volume road grant. So this is for the stormwater bump outs on Grayling Road. So we're excited about that. Jeff will be doing some final traffic counts, and then Pannoni will be presenting the final design at the May infrastructure meeting, and we anticipate that bid documents will be prepared and before council in June. Bless you. We also have installed our speed humps on Meeting House Lane. That happened this morning, so everyone go and check them out and marvel at their beauty.
If I may, there are 2 speed humps.
That's
there,
correct.
not just one.
Yes,
Okay, I just want to, so people aren't surprised when they come upon the second speed.
yes, there are 2. Thank you for the clarification.
And somebody just pointed out online, so I thought I'd mention it. These are temporary speed bumps, and they will be replaced probably after that road is scheduled for paving. So this is a pilot to see how it goes. Some people were like, why aren't there the cutouts for the emergency vehicles that permanent speed bumps would have? So just so if people are listening at home, these are temporary in nature, so don't assume that they're going to look like that forever.
Great, thank you. So we officially said goodbye to Alan Gazzardo on April 4th. So we had a nice little send-off party for him, so just wanted to again thank him for all of his time and service to the borough. And then finally, just wanted to go ahead and announce this. More information will be coming, but we had a meeting with Lower Merion Township and Lower Merion School District on an upcoming new policy. It is a school bus red light camera program. So this is where there will be cameras installed on the stop arms of school buses. So if there is a moving traffic violation regarding stopping requirements, when school buses have the arm out, that camera will capture that, and tickets will be then sent to any violators. So we will be coordinating with the school district and the township on getting the message out, but that is a program that is coming up, so just wanted to make people aware. We will be posting information on our website, in our newsletter, on social media. The township will have it and the school district will also have the information available, so more information will be forthcoming, but wanted to put that on your radar. And those are my highlights.
Thank you. Let's move on to public comment. As a reminder, public comment is 3 minutes, and you can begin by giving your name and your address. And then you'll have 3 minutes. Anybody in the room wish to make a public comment? Start in the front row. Go ahead, John.
Sure. Yeah, I don't have a long, drawn-out, pre-written comment this time, fortunately. I just wanted to do a callback to last meeting's discussion about...
Give your name and your address, John.
Oh, I'm sorry. John Monroe, 413 Grove Place. I just wanted to quickly call back to last meeting's discussion about the TOD proposal. I was not able to make the last planning commission meeting, but my understanding is that the proposal is being drafted rather quickly and it's moving at a pretty decent pace. And I just wanted to address some things regarding some of the discussion. One of those things was I had a short, brief interaction with Fred after the last meeting in between the public meeting and the executive session. And I mentioned that I was a little perturbed by the elevation of the city of Austin, Texas, as a success story to be emulated for Narberth, not just because the economies of scale seem to be a little odd considering it's a major, well, it's a smaller city, but it is a city and we're a very small borough. Secondly, I think context is important. Even if I stipulate the idea that they have managed to see a marginal decrease in the average rent, it's been coupled with a pretty serious exodus of renters from the city because the trade-off for that was to eliminate a lot of the renter protections, some of which they had that we don't have as it stands, but the quality of life for a lot of renters went down. Currently, renters in Austin are paying a larger percentage of their income on average than they were before these changes were made. And in the interest of transparency, I did want to inquire genuinely if, because he is taking the lead on council, if Councilman Gadini has disclosed to the public that he is a registered lobbyist for real estate developers in the city of Austin. I know he's been forthright about his career as a consultant, But I thought that detail was important as things move forward. Thank you.
All right, thanks. You want to respond since you're?
Yeah, I mean, I file publicly with the city of Austin. Basically, Austin has very stringent rules, including regarding tenant protections. They've actually just adopted a bunch of new tenant protections. They've been making a lot of leeway on that. And anyone who engages with the city of Austin in a way that is meant to shape public policy has to register as a lobbyist.
Can I ask, are you a registered lobbyist in Pennsylvania?
No.
Thank you.
I only work in Central Texas, City of Austin. That's come up before at a public meeting. I clarified that. I'm happy to clarify as many questions as folks have for me. I feel like I'm pretty straightforward. I feel like people know generally where I stand, and I'm always happy to clarify.
And since we have our solicitor here, I don't see any conflict.
Unless there's any development that's going to be going on in Norwood, in and around Norwood.
Yeah.
Unless he's working. Yeah.
I work in Texas.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Anybody else in the room wish to make a public comment? Let's go ahead to the back row. In the back row, to make a public comment? Okay, let's go ahead online. Carol Marie, I see you with your hand raised. You can unmute and give your name and address and begin a comment.
Carol Marie Scanlon, Sabine Avenue. So I have a question about the resolution that you have on file for tonight. Now, it's a very broad resolution as to what our protected information is. What is being specifically looked at for someone in Narberth that's going to have access to our information?
Would you like to keep, I will respond.
All right, and who is it, and are they security bonded, and do we have the assurance that you're not going to be able to say, hey, Fred Bush lives at this address on this street, and he makes this much money, and he pays this much taxes? My other question is, what's the status of the appraisal or the assessment for 201, and has that RFP been prepared?
There is no RFP that is in progress right now. The appraisal hasn't happened. And as for your question about Berkheimer, so this is a question that you brought up 2 years ago when we first signed up with Berkheimer. It's a requirement that Berkheimer sets up a confidential contact with each municipality they work in. I have an answer from Berkheimer. We subject our company to the SOC1 Type 2 compliance audit, which verifies the accuracy and security of the data we process and store. Since the passage of the State Act 32, the amendment to Act 511, the Local Tax Enabling Act, starting in 2012, all certified earned income tax collectors are required to pass the audit. We've passed it 21 years in a row. We subjected ourselves to this audit for 10 years prior to this requirement. The audit is made available to the Montgomery County Tax Collector Committees and therefore municipalities. The reason we require the confidential contact resolution is so there is limited access to any confidential or sensitive information and only authorized by the borough. The person named on the resolution is the only one who can retrieve this information from our client portal. Our client portal is secure and has passed the rigors of the SOC audit each year. Generally, you will be retrieving monthly collection reports and ACH confirmations through the portal, and we also make available alphabetical listings of residents without financial information and employers. So we need to know that we're getting the right amount of money from them for our bookkeeping, and we can also, should we find the need, we can use this to confirm that someone is paying their EIT, but we can't confirm how much or any other identifying information other than their name. So that is the extent of the access we had. And Maggie, you actually logged on to the portal earlier.
Right, so in terms of access, I've had sole access, and the point of the resolution this evening is to also add Emily as our new assistant manager to having that access. It just means that if I'm out, she's going to be able to log in to see the numbers. But in terms of the reporting that we get, the primary reports that are available for download are ones that are just aggregate data. So it's simply telling us that in this time period, Berkheimer collected X number of dollars in EIT, and then it gives us the ACH confirmation number so that that money is then transferred into the borough general funds. We get that information, we get monthly reports in terms of just the number of employers and the number of individuals paying into the EIT. Again, just no identifying information, just straight numbers. And then just monthly reports kind of aggregating all of those separate individual reports. We end up getting something like, 3 to 4 reports maybe per week sometimes, or 2 depending on kind of the frequency of the distributions. So then we get monthly reports that show what the total distributions are. There is then a place in the portal where I can log in and request additional forms that have more unique identifying information, like what President Bush was saying about the names of individuals or employers. That information, though, I cannot just simply log into my account and download that. That has to be requested, so I submit a request form to Berkheimer, and it goes to them. They validate my account, and then they would send that to me. I am the listed account holder. I am also bonded. Emily is now bonded. So it is it is a very secure process, and everything is managed through Berkheimer, which goes through their rigorous audit process. So this is a very secure system.
Can I just, I think it's important to underscore, given the fact that we have Elon Musk, who is actually illegally accessing all of our data, and we should truly be concerned about that we answered this exact same question on April 19th of 2023. And, we should be cautious not to intentionally or unintentionally concern our neighbors when there is a national shadow of data misuse. That's not happening here. And we've explained this, again, in April 19th, 2023. I'm glad you read the exact same security email again, because things have changed in 2 years. And we are, in fact,
I get why
protecting
people
data.
are sensitive to it, right? And I think we want to be crystal clear. There's no way from the data that Maggie, like we as council members don't even see that data. We see a total revenue. At best, what they can see is who is actually paying the tax. And a list of employers who are remitting the tax on behalf of those people. But there is no way for Maggie or anybody else to say, Mike Soundson had paid, $600 in EIT, and therefore if you divide that by 0.5, Mike Soundson made $6 gazillion last year. Nobody, Maggie, nobody here would be able to do that. We just don't have access to that information, period.
Okay. Is there anybody else who wishes to make a public comment online? If so, please make yourself known. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to declare public comment closed. Let's move on to our consent agenda. Someone like to make a motion to pass the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda items A through B.
Second.
Okay, discussion of the consent agenda. All right, we are voting on consent agenda items A and B to approve them. All in favor? Okay, it is unanimous. All right, let's move on to our consideration items. 9A.
That's you.
That's me, oh. Well, in that case, let me find the actual text of the resolution here. I can't make a motion.
I move that Borough Council approves Resolution 2025-08 Gold Award Commendation to Amelia Coventry.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, very exciting. I think this is the first time we've had a gold award commendation. So our borough manager apparently, I think you're the only scout in the room, maybe?
And
So-
I'm also,
Well, okay, apart from,
gold-
the only
gold
one at the table
award.
here. Yes, the only
Commendation.
gold award
Are you-
commendation. So,
Yes.
you want to talk a little about the,
Yes, so I myself am a Gold Award Girl Scout. many, many moons ago. So when I received the word from the Girl Scouts of Pennsylvania that you were receiving this award, I was beyond thrilled and wanted to share my excitement and congratulate you on such an honor and such an achievement, well deserved. So we wanted to present you tonight with the Commendation Award. So let's read out the resolution, if you don't mind indulging me.
Please.
No, yeah, you want to do that, or?
Sure. So we have a resolution for you. Whereas the Girl Scout Gold Award is the highest achievement within the Girl Scouts of the USA, recognizing the extraordinary efforts of young women who demonstrate leadership and a strong commitment to community service. And whereas Amelia Convery, a resident of Narberth, Pennsylvania, has earned the prestigious Gold Award, having completed a project that exemplifies initiative, service, and the betterment of the community. And whereas the Borough of Narberth has been informed by the Girl Scouts of Eastern Pennsylvania of this remarkable accomplishment, and whereas Amelia's dedication, leadership, and civic engagement bring pride and inspiration to the Narberth community and serve as a shining example for her peers, and whereas the Borough Council of Narberth wishes to formally recognize and commend Amelia for her exceptional achievement. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Borough Council of Narberth, in a duly convened meeting on the 17th of April 2025, hereby congratulates and honors Amelia for earning the Girl Scout Gold Award and extends its sincere appreciation for her contributions to the community. Congratulations. So if I may also, if you would join us up here, would like to present you with this certificate of recognition. Amelia, thank you so much for your service and congratulations on your award.
Thank you. Can I get a picture of the two of you?
Sure.
Is this the equivalent of Eagle Scouts?
It is.
Like a,
But better. I blinked that I was like speaking there.
So while you're up, do you want to tell us a little about your project, Amelia?
Oh yeah, so I went down to the Dominican Republic with my Girl Scout troop in late June, and we worked at a place called Mariposa, and we basically like made lessons to teach to everyone down there, and we like talked to a ton of different age groups of like people in underserved communities, especially girls in underserved communities, and basically what I taught was like health and fitness. So I taught them about like how to eat healthier, like the different food groups, like why exercise is so important. Some other people, they taught like stuff about STEM. We did volleyball, we did a ton of sports, like, and just stuff like that. And yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. Congratulations. All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Let's move to our next agenda item, which is the SEPTA resolution.
I move that Borough Council approve Resolution 2025-11, SEPTA funding support.
I would like to second.
Okay. So as I mentioned in my opening, SEPTA has declared that without additional funding, they will be forced to close down a number of different regional rail lines, a number of different bus lines, but among them the Paoli-Thorndale line as of end of the year, was it? It was pretty soon.
January 1st.
Yeah, January 1st. Now, we're hopeful, in the past, last year this came up and Governor Shapiro stepped in with some emergency funding, but that is not a long-term solution to a structural deficit. So really the solution is going to be for more tax money to be dedicated to SEPTA. And we're trying to add our voices to this as much as we can to support it, because obviously it's central to our community. So, what do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, we, last year when this came up, we adopted a resolution of support. Obviously, the state did not act at that time. We were also, I think we might have been the first municipality to submit a letter from their elected officials asking the governor to flex funding over to SEPTA. That obviously did occur, but it's critical to our community. Personally, I've never owned a vehicle. SEPTA has been critical to me being able to get around the region. And it's just, it's critical to the foot traffic in our downtown and all of the things that, we know about. The town was built around the train station. So this is, again, asking for, for the short-term fix to be provided by the state, which then lays the groundwork for other changes that need to occur in order to actually strengthen SEPTA. So it doesn't just survive, but that it actually becomes the great system that it could. Not all places in the country have like the beautiful infrastructure that we have, right? Like over 150 years old.
Those of us who have lived in Texas or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Some places are spending a ton of money to get a lot less. And it's you know, for us, it's really about maintaining this great gift that our predecessors gave us and putting ourselves back in the position where we can operate it frequently and reliably, and that you don't have to, you know, check, and then when you miss the train, you have to wait an hour. Moving away from that. For step one is to prevent the system from dying. Step two is to build it back better.
I think I'm probably currently the only regular rider, commuter. I mean, you don't go every day, right? 3 days a week. And I'll just say, you know, I can't imagine having to have spent, and I've used SEPTA for 30 years. You know, I can't imagine driving into the city, especially with no SEPTA, it's going to be even worse. And when SEPTA goes down for weather or wind or whatever, and you do have to go in on those days, you know, the traffic is horrible because the infrastructure isn't designed to carry the however many thousands of people on the R5. Sorry, the Paoli.
It's all right. We're among friends. You can call it the
Yeah,
R5.
but I also, you know, I want to note that, you know, there's a camaraderie amongst us who ride the train that actually helps develop community. You know, there are people who I've seen at the Narberth train station, you know, for 20 years that we ride the train together. We chat on the platform. When the trains go down, you know, people just offer each other rides. I've met several people, you know, in this community that I wouldn't otherwise know, but for the fact that we ride the train together. And I think, you know, that kind of gets lost in all these discussions. We only talk about it as a means of conveyance, but it actually does help promote community in a way that I think people just kind of don't really appreciate. I just wanted to add that in because it's not sort of part of the resolution.
And the value of our house is all good, yeah.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I mean, even if you don't
Goes
take the
without
train or
saying.
care about the community, the value of our house is good.
And I want to reiterate what I said to Fred before. So, you know, our folks, the legislators who represent Narberth are at the front of this. Of course they're going to support it. They recognize it. If you have any friends, relatives, you know, people you casually know who are represented by Republicans in the center of the state, or even the sort of far suburbs, those are the people whose swing votes are going to matter. And if you have friends in those communities, I implore you to pick up the phone and say, hey, do me a favor as your friend, your cousin, your sister-in-law, whatever it is, could you call your state rep and say, please support this, because those are the votes that matter.
Okay, yeah, I see Gene's hand up.
Go ahead,
Gene.
I'm not pushing ahead.
Yeah, I just want thank you, Michael, for your leadership on this particular issue. And I want to say, even if you don't personally ride SEPTA, these service cuts affects everyone. The service cuts would mean more cars on the road, more traffic, more parking impacts, more air pollution, and a huge step backwards for our climate goals. And then all of the Narberth residents and others who live along this Paoli-Thorndale line rely on SEPTA, as Michael said, to access their jobs and their schools. And our downtown small businesses that are already struggling from a lack of enough residents that live near them to sustain them will be impacted by the loss of foot traffic from the daily train commuters who use Narberth Station. And this will also impact our ability to attract new businesses to Narberth. So just to emphasize, these cuts will trigger a a really dangerous cycle for fewer riders, less revenue, and then further cuts, and really kind of accelerating that SEPTA death spiral. And I do think it'll be catastrophic to Narberth, so I think this is important. And to underscore just the broader implications, I want to call out SEPTA's analysis, which projects that there's going to be more than $20 billion in lost property value and in the region, and $11 billion in lost tax revenue, and over 75,000 jobs in our region could be lost. So this is really a statewide crisis, and we need the state Senate to pass the budget that will fund SEPTA.
Thanks, Gene. Ira?
So I'm just curious, I read a little bit about this, but have they picked this particular line because it's on Amtrak lines?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have to pay Amtrak for use of the line. So the lines where they have to do that are more expensive for them. So those are the ones that they propose cutting, I believe.
Yeah,
Yes.
we are the Paoli-Thorndale line is the single most expensive regional rail line, and that extends to fixed costs as well that don't change regardless of whether you change the service levels. I think a large chunk of that is due to Amtrak and the length of the line.
All right, so we have this resolution in front of us, and Michael had also provided some other suggestions for steps that we might take. So let's pause on the resolution. We'll vote at the end of this discussion. Do you want to go through some of the? Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I can do that. So some of these were kind of like blue sky ideas a bit. Some were things that that had been on my mind for a while, and then this kind of precipitated trying to elevate the discussion about them. Obviously, we discussed TOD policies at our last meeting. Had that on the list. That's an important policy discussion to have. In terms of other kind of like smaller things that we might be able to do, SEPTA has been trying to elevate kind of partnership programs through which they allow for bulk purchase of passes in a number of different formats. For them, it helps them get a consistent sources of funding, kind of like building out muscle mass, right? Obviously for larger employers, there's more of an implication if a larger employer pulls out, but I think they're trying to get a lot of smaller entities, and then that both serves as a source of funding, but then it also encourages the folks who are on the receiving end of those passes to use the system more frequently. So I think that part of the thought is getting those in the hands of folks who, even if they're not necessarily using it for commuting. So I wanted to just provide that kind of context because I wanted to say, it would be something for us to potentially consider if we wanted to add something like that as a benefit for Borough employees. If we wanted to explore whether there's opportunities to share information on this, or explore whether there's any potential for some sort of consortium model for some of our businesses in town, and whether the Borough could potentially help fund something along those lines, or explore any sort of interest there. SEPTA is also piloting a partnership program through which they would partner with folks who either own or manage apartment buildings. Their threshold for that is at least 50 units in a portfolio, but they have said that for a smaller community like Narberth, they would actually lower that down to 20 units. And not that we control any individual owner's ability to offer that to their tenants, but we could always let owners or management know that this actually is an option if they're interested. Obviously, it would massively affect the value of their property if SEPTA were to terminate this line. And then also there is, SEPTA also allows for kind of the bulk purchase of event kind of based passes, like paper passes basically that you can have on hand. They don't expire, so you can get a number of them. And they have that sort of program for if you have, folks that have special events, whether folks that are going to be, you're encouraging folks to travel to and from a special event so as to help manage parking for the special event. or folks who might be coming to help set up and break down those sorts of things. And those are kind of like loadable things that can just live, and they don't start until the first time you tap. So those were just like a couple, ideas of ways that to help both provide kind of like potentially provide small sources of funding for SEPTA on a recurring basis, and also send them the signal that the Borough is interested in their long-term viability and wants to be a good partner. But I just wanted to kind of surface those things. Obviously, some of them are a little bit blue sky, but I figured now would be a good time to actually have a bit of a blue sky conversation.
Maggie, what do you think if we asked you to look into the key advantage for Borough employees? I don't know how many actually use it, but my understanding is that the way it works is you get 6 months worth of extremely discounted cars, and then you're basically paying every month per ride. So you pay a flat rate per ride. It's a discounted rate. I mean, I don't know how many folks actually use PubTrans to get to work regularly. But,
Yeah, thinking about our staff and where they live, I'm actually probably the one most on a train line already. But I can certainly look into it and see if it would be advantageous for us to secure and speak with our staff and see if that would be something that they would have use for.
I don't think you should be exploring the SEPTA passes. I think you mean rather survey, hey, who would be actually interested in this?
the way it works is it has to be everybody. Like you provide one to every employee.
No, I know,
If
we
you're
had that at
gonna sign
Drexel
up
too, but it sounds like that may not be attractive to employees. So
let's
I'm just saying,
investigate.
I don't want to add more investigating to you, Maggie, that if there is a critical mass of folks that say, yeah, that would be really interesting, I'll call SEPTA and do the behind the scenes work of how many. I don't want to throw that on staff.
Thanks, Cindy. I'll do a straw poll of the staff to see if it's something that we
Absolutely.
should look into.
Yeah, I did a straw poll of the NBA, and they're coming in May, so they can answer, but there was only one person that utilized it.
Okay.
I'll note that we could, as part of our sort of green building requirements or whatever we structure as a density bonus, we could ask apartment owners to incorporate this program and say,
Yeah.
look, this is going to be part of the deal. You're going to be near a train station. You offer this benefit to your residents as part of our other requirements for.
I mean, that cost will get passed on to the residents, so we have to think about.
But this is, they're getting an
they're
extra,
higher,
they're
they're
getting an
very
extra
high.
story out of it. That's the advantage for them.
Right,
So.
if you're getting things out of it. I'm glad that you brought that up, because that had been on my mind as well as a potential option to add into whatever ends up coming back.
Okay.
I can't imagine, Michael, that this 50 apartment unit, that number's still gonna stay with SEPTA, who desperately needs funding.
Well, yeah, like I said, they said, because I directly asked them, like, I said, well, we don't, we have a lot of things that are smaller than
Yeah.
that. And they said, they got back to me and they said basically, yeah, we would be interested in going down to, I think, at least 20. So that's kind of like, was the minimum threshold that they had mentioned, if there are folks in this area who were interested in participating.
And Narberth can't do it as a community consortium.
I mean, who's going to pay?
I think it was like the administrative aspect of that was the more challenging piece, and so at the time, kind of, they were like, we don't know administratively how that would work, but if there's any, I guess like if we could always, if we had ideas, we could, I'm sure that they're solutions-oriented people, so.
Yeah.
We can be the pilot.
Absolutely.
I think it might be good to come up with a letter which we can send to some of the larger apartments, seeing if, gauging their interest in doing this and pointing out that this is an option that may be attractive to their residents.
Do they have the same rule that the employee does, which is you have to offer it to everybody in the building, or is it like?
I believe so. Well, I don't know.
We can follow up with them
Yeah.
and see. I know that there were certainly like minimum amounts, like
Yeah.
you can't have any fewer than
Right.
X. But I think it was like, my recollection was that it was either like you could actually choose different ways of doing it.
Okay.
Like you could do it on like a per unit basis, or you could do it on a per bedroom or per, like there were various permutations of it.
I think big picture is we love to focus on it, I think, and maybe go back to SEPTA and see what they're willing to do with us for our smaller apartment models.
I mean, we need to have a landlord on board too.
Right. But say, like, we're willing to go out to talk to the landlords if you can package something for us with some flexibility that recognizes that we don't have 20-story buildings with 500 tenants.
Sorry, we don't take public comment at this time.
I'm a landlord.
Oh, you're a landlord.
Can you give us a thumbs up?
I own the Elm. My name is Max Berger.
In that case, I think we would welcome you.
I've never met Max.
I would be willing to look at the program, but I don't understand what the cost of the cards are. It might be something that could benefit my residents, but I'm here also to talk about the parking issue tonight. But that's a later discussion. But this, to help SEPTA, would be vital. I'm not sure how much it helps SEPTA, because they need 300 million or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
it's...
spiritually, yes.
We're a borough of 4,200 people, or 4,400 people. There's a limit to how much we can affect state level fares, but, we try.
But I'd be willing to look at the program and offer it to residents if it made some economic sense. Probably doesn't, but we might still consider it.
Cool.
I will note that the public comment period in general has passed, and I don't think we currently have any parking on our agenda for
I
tonight.
thought that was tonight's meeting. Sorry.
Nope, not on the agenda. So
Okay.
I don't know what exactly were you expecting us to be discussing?
I thought there was a community discussion about the parking permitting.
No.
Wasn't there an agenda item? Did you see that one? Maybe it was a citizen group that was meeting in the past today.
That might be. That's yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, coming back to our general discussion. Anybody else want to discuss any of the points that Michael had raised?
I like that last point is coordinating bulk purchases, and I think that's something maybe even that we could talk about with the NBA, and I don't want to throw more on their plate. I know they're coming on in May to talk about their proposal, but I think there would be some kind of low-hanging fruit where if we correspond with, let's use the Eagles, come to Narberth, eat, get your ice cream, shop, we're gonna give you the SEPTA pass. That we can use it as a.
4th of July comes to mind.
4th of July, like, I think there's a lot,
Dickens comes to
oh, I
mind.
mean, there's so many that we could think about, how do we use that as an economic tool?
Yeah.
I think that's the lowest hanging fruit, is that last one, actually.
Yeah, I definitely think that's low hanging fruit, because you can just, they just live,
Exactly.
and then they don't expire.
All right. Well, let's try to figure out how much they cost. It makes sense to.
Yeah, I had that information at some point, I don't have it in front of me right
Okay.
now.
Well, I'm not sure we're at the point where we can suggest a particular time or use for them. So keep working on that.
Yeah, this was just to kind of surface
Okay.
broad concepts.
All right.
That's the resolution.
Yeah, so I don't see no further discussion, and I don't think there's any action to be taken on any of those points other than kind of in the background gathering information. Let's vote on the resolution. So we are voting on Resolution 2025-11 for SEPTA funding support. All those in favor? Okay, it is unanimous. And I'm going to return to 9A because I don't think we actually took our vote. We were very excited to give Amelia our certificate. I would like to vote on Resolution 2025-08 for the Gold Award commendation to Amelia Convery. All those in favor? Okay, that is unanimous as well for the record.
Wait, Fred, can I go back, I'm sorry, to the SEPTA though? Can we send this out, this resolution, so it doesn't just kind of die in our packet to elected? Can we coordinate elected? Because to your point, I think this is also helpful to send to friends, like, hey, you know, my parents are in Westchester. Send this along and say, this is what the community is doing.
Yeah.
Now this to county, state.
That was the intent. I think we did that last
Yeah.
time as well. We got a really nice letter back from the SEPTA board last year.
Yeah, yes, from Leslie.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can direct Maggie to send that along as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yes,
should
I
do
mean,
that.
it is passed by council, so it is fit to be publicized as we like.
I wonder, Michael, maybe instead of directing Maggie, would you and I, could we maybe come up with a list of potential folks?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. I have no objection to that.
We should put it out on social media and encourage people to share it with their friends and family in different parts of the state.
Okay, I think we can proceed along to consideration item C. Okay, sale of police vehicle.
I move that Borough Council approve Resolution 2025-09, sale of police vehicle.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so under state law, we have to approve a resolution whenever we sell property of above a certain value. So this is the chief's old,
No, it's
no, this is not the Crown Vic?
It's the other Crown Vic, the Mark Crown Vic.
Okay. Chief, you wanna, you know more about this than I do apparently.
So at the end of last year, council approved the purchase of a new EV to replace the marked Crown Vic. So that was purchased and it's been at the upfitter we had to wait for our term basically. It's been there for several months. In this time, we've been able to remove all the equipment that we can reuse out of the old car. It's been decommissioned, so it's of no use to us anymore. And hopefully the new one should be in within the next 2 weeks maybe.
Okay. Anything else to add? Any discussion? This car was on its last legs. This is one of the reasons we replaced it. So it's good that we're realizing some value.
Right? Or 2010. 2010.
Yeah, 2010.
15 years old.
So
Yeah.
it owes us nothing.
Okay. Let's vote on Resolution 2025-09 to authorize sale of the police vehicle. All those in favor? Okay, it is unanimous. Okay, 9D is the Berkheimer. I'll take a motion.
I'll move for council to approve resolution 2025-10 to include the assistant borough manager as a contact person in the dissemination of the Berkheimer materials for the EIT.
Is there a second? Okay. So we discussed this extensively during public comment. This is a requirement from Berkheimer that we have contacts who are authorized to access this information. And this is, as there have been changes in our personnel, we have passed multiple resolutions over the last couple of years to reflect that. So this is just a change that would allow Emily to access this information. It is not stored on our own servers, and there's very limited access to this info. It does not involve any individual financial numbers or individual social security information of that type. Further discussions or questions of what we have here? Okay, let us vote on Resolution 2025-10 to add our assistant manager to the confidential contracts for Berkheimer. All those in favor? Okay, it is unanimous. I'm just looking here. I think I'm going to want Borough Manager to be around for the discussion for all the items. I don't think we can skip around. So let's go ahead and open discussion on 9E, the fee schedule update.
You need a motion?
I need a motion.
I move that Borough Council approve Resolution 2025-12 fee schedule update.
All right, is there a second?
Second?
All right, perfect timing, Maggie. We can handle these other things without you, but I want you to tell us about the update to the fee schedule.
Oh, yes, okay, so, my computer timed out. So the fee schedule, the one change is related to the open space fee in lieu. So this was a motion that was passed by council 2 years ago to set the fee for the open space fee in lieu. This has to do with subdivision and land development applications. The applicant would either need to provide the required open space for the ordinance or pay this fee in lieu. That fee was set 2 years ago, but the subdivision land development ordinance does say that the fee shall be set by resolution. And so when the fee was adopted 2 years ago, it wasn't incorporated into the fee schedule specifically. So we are not amending or changing the fee in any way, shape, or form from what was already authorized and approved by council. We're just slotting it into the fee schedule so that it lives where it needs to live. The other two changes, these are new things. So the one related to the contractor registration, currently our fee schedule says that our contractor registration is $100, and then additionally contractors will need to pay the $10 application fee for the business privilege tax. So what we're doing though in practice is that we're collecting the $100 plus the $10 for commercial contractors, but for residential contractors, we're actually not collecting any contractor registration fee, and we're only collecting the $10 business privilege tax fee. That $10 is actually more of a pass-through that gets paid to eCollect to cover the services that they provide. They take their commission out of that. So therefore, we're not actually collecting any money for contractor registrations for residential contractors, which is the bulk of the people who register with the borough are residential contractors. So our fee schedule says that we should be collecting $100 for all contractor registrations plus the $10 BPT. And in practice, it seems that we're not collecting that from all contractors, only some. So what we're doing here is we're just kind of right-sizing the registration fees. The $25 contractor registration for residential contractors is very comparable to most other municipalities, as far as I can tell, in the entire county. So this is a very normal fee. This is also an annual fee. So we're not changing the structure of how frequently contractors need to register. We're just now right-sizing it so that we're actually collecting a registration fee for residential contractors, and then all contractors are still subject to that $10 BPT registration, which also is an annual fee. And then finally, the rental. We, as you know, rent out our space here in the council room, the multi-purpose room, and other borough facilities for public and community events. Community events, we typically don't charge a fee. Private events, we do charge a fee. Whenever you set an appointment to reserve the rooms, our housemen are the ones to then set the rooms up. So they set up the tables, they set up the chairs, they move things around, they clean, they prep all the bathrooms. So it's a fair bit of work that goes into setting up for these events. And we've had a couple instances recently where people who have booked the room have not shown up. So we've set the room up to accommodate what they had requested, and then we don't hear from them and they didn't show up. And it's a fair amount of work, again, like I said, for our housemen to do that. They're also our general housemen, and they're the on-call staff for our fire department. So if a fire call comes in, they need to go respond to that. So, you know, we are trying to balance those needs. So what we're proposing here is just a mild deterrent to make sure that people communicate with us if they're not going to attend the event that they had registered for. So we're just setting up different fee schedules, again, cancellation requirements and then applicable fees. If you cancel at a certain time before the event, and then it differs based on if it was a reservation that did require a fee versus a reservation that did not require a fee.
Okay. I know this was discussed in F&A.
Yeah, yes.
Approve the
Yes, we did.
suggested changes. All right. Any other discussion about the suggested changes? Just ask out of common courtesy, please let the office know if you're going to just rude. Okay. All right, seeing no discussion, let's vote on the update to the fee schedule. All those in favor? Okay, it is unanimous. Let's go ahead for 9F, which is the IGS contract.
And are we still motioning this as it's written, or?
No, change
since
the motion.
we changed it based on the discussion at F&A, if we want to just repeat the amended
I don't actually have that amended text in front of me, but,
Why don't you just wing it?
Yeah,
If it's a problem,
I think
we'll restate it.
we can.
You can always
sort of
pull it back and
paraphrase
restate it. Take a shot at it. Well, or let Mike do it.
Well, make the motion and then I'll move to amend it. I think makes sense.
No, why don't you just try to give,
Okay, I need to pull it up.
yeah, why don't you just try to give this motion as best you
Okay.
can?
I move the Borough Council authorize the Borough Manager to execute the IGS contract and will provide the rates are within the designated range. In addition, we modified the resolution or suggested modifications to the resolution at FNA to give the Borough Manager the authority to not just execute based on price, but based on time frame. You may recall. Well, I'll just leave it there.
Let's pull that back. Let's pull that back. If I may-
to
if I
add
may
the
offer.
additional authority, I think I can make it cleaner. We would like to amend the motion to add the additional authority, not just to execute based on price, but also based on time frame for the total contract. And then I'll explain in a second what that means. That makes sense.
Just trying to make sure that it gives the borough manager the authority that she's going to need here. It has stated it does?
I just want to clarify, I know what you mean, but by time frame you mean the
Length of contract.
The length of contract.
I might suggest that we say, I move to authorize the borough manager to extend a contract with IGS using her judgment as to the appropriate time frame. Is that?
Yeah, okay, so I'd like to move to,
Does that seem?
yeah, let me
That's
try it
captures
again.
what- I mean, I was
Yeah.
present during that discussion, so.
Yeah, okay, so I'd like to move to approve the, to approve the IGS contract renewal subject to the borough manager's discretion on the overall terms of the contract, including price and length of the contract.
That gives you a lot of flexibility. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, let's discuss here. So, Maggie, why don't you?
Okay, so at our work session earlier this month, we had Graham Liu here, representative from IGS Energy, and we had discussed the desire to renew our contract with them. Our current contract expires at the end of the year in December 2025. The recommendation to renew now is based on Graham's expertise in reading the market trends. So if we are able to lock in a contract now, we are likely to be getting more favorable rates for whatever length of contract we have. And before the price hikes, he anticipates in the summer months. The catch to that is we have some potential movement on the CCA, so that's the community, I'm going to totally blank on the name, community contract.
Community choice aggregation?
Community
Yeah, that's
choice, thank you, community
think-
choice aggregation, which was initiated many years, 3-4 years ago is when this process started. So it's been under review with the PUC. So there's, I believe, 7 total boroughs as part of this CCA program. So if we were to then receive approval and fully engage in this CCA program, our contract with IGS becomes moot, and therefore we would be subject to some sort of termination with IGS. The caveat being that if we renew with IGS and we start the program under the CCA, any essentially the energy that we purchase under the contract would then be liquidated at the time of termination. So if the market rates are such that the liquidation of the assets are greater than the cost of purchase, then there would be no detriment to the borough. If the liquidation then would occur at a time when the cost is lower than where we secured the contract, then essentially they would take a hit on that and we would have to make them whole. So there is a risk that if we terminate our contract with IGS, that we could then have to pay them additional money for some sort of termination. The CCA, we do believe, has a provision that we are able to defer enactment of that until such time as we close our contract with IGS at its natural closing date. So the recommendation here is that, not knowing when the market is going to kind of hit at its low point based on recommendations from our professional at IGS, he would make the recommendation to say, you should buy now, this is going to be your lowest rate. So having that flexibility in making the contract will mean that we can be most responsive to market rates. The question about the timing, though, is going to be based on some additional conversations that I will be having with the solicitor who is assisting with the CCA program to get a better understanding of the timeline for when that program might be coming online, so we can make an informed decision as to the length of the contract we wish to renew with IGS, so that we're not locking ourselves too long into an IGS contract if we believe that the CCA program is going to come online sooner rather than later. So this is going to then provide me with that opportunity to then work with our professional consultants at IGS and the CCA program to come up with the most advantageous plan for us. So we will renew with IGS, but we will do so at a rate to be determined by the market, and then for a duration that we feel is most appropriate based on, again, that professional consultation.
A lot of work for you, Maggie.
Yeah. It's mostly the professionals, so I'm just working with them
Just trying to synergize.
Yeah.
And I understand that did I hear the petition was initially denied for this?
Yeah,
So, like,
unfortunately did,
there's
yeah.
probably no better than a 50-50 shot of the CCA going through at all.
Well, so
if it was initially denied.
The appeal filing was due today, so hopefully they've done that.
Yeah, otherwise it's a 0% chance.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Hopefully we can count on who actually appealed. Okay, any other discussion? So I think so IGS saved a significant amount of money over the terms of the prior contract, and thanks to Trump's crazy trade war, the global energy prices have been dropping, crude oil is at a low, so I'm not surprised that currently energy prices are lower than they will be once AI really starts scaling up and all those giant data centers start sucking it up. So this probably is a really good time to buy energy. Any other discussions? Okay. So we are voting to authorize Maggie to renew the contract with IGS using her judgment as to the length of contract based on discussions with the CCA folks. All those in favor? Okay, it is unanimous. 650 Montgomery.
Yeah. Mine too. I move that Borough Council approve the closure of the letter of credit for the 650 Montgomery Avenue land development project.
Second.
Who wants to take this one?
I'll explain this one also. So 650 Montgomery Avenue, when they were approved for land development, had secured a letter of credit for the estimated cost of construction of completion for all of the site improvements. That letter of credit expires on April 27th. We had Pannoni out there recently to do an inspection. They're very nearly done with everything. As with most land development plans, the final things are going to be all the site improvements, so all of the final striping, sidewalks, and landscaping. So Pannoni was out to do a punch list inspection of all outstanding items and noted that there were just a couple of things that still needed to be addressed. Since that initial inspection, the property owner and the developer have actually addressed some of those already. So we just received an email this morning from Pannoni with a final punch list item. What we're asking for tonight is for council to authorize the closure of that letter of credit, which was the initial letter of credit that the applicant had secured. The remaining outstanding items amount to a total cost of completion of $3,250. So it's very minor things really at this point, and really it's just waiting for the weather to be cooperative to do those final landscaping items. So Pannoni has recommended that we go ahead and do the closure. So again, it's going to expire anyway. They would have needed to get an extension of the letter of credit, but since it's such a small amount, the recommendation is just to go ahead and close that out so that that relieves whatever they have on their end. And what they will provide to us then is a cash escrow for those remaining punch list items in the amount of $3,250.
So I didn't see the cash escrow requirement. Is that part of this motion? I mean, how are we require them to have that escrow? Is that
They will be sending us a check.
Okay. Do we need to stipulate that? Or we're just gonna trust them because it's in their best interest? I mean, if we pass this and they just don't send us the money, I don't know, maybe I'm being paranoid.
I've been in touch with the developer and they're fully aware of what the requirements are.
Okay.
And the borough still has to be the one to release from the letter of credit to the bank, so there is still some hand.
They can hand us
But
the
if
check
they don't
before
have
we
the
give
letter
them
of
the letter.
credit, I mean,
We have the letter of credit, but
Right.
it's going to expire.
yeah. So if we pass this and they don't give us the check, we just,
And the letter of credit expires. If they don't give us the $3,000, it doesn't mean they don't have to do it. It just means there's not $3,000 of security to force them to do it. We could still hold them in default and pursue remedies if needed.
okay, that's fine, as long as we have some kind of recourse.
Can I ask a question? This doesn't depend on my vote, but I did actually have a question about the landscaping, because a neighbor came to me and said, hey, they said they were supposed to plant trees here and they never did. And then sure enough, in the report, they document that as well. So that's the $3,000, I'm assuming, because it looks like most of the landscaping that they did was not the plan that they submitted, but the surveyor said, but it's nice enough, so we're not gonna hassle you about that.
Yeah, so in the Pannoni letter, you'll see that there was a note on there that said that the plantings that were installed were not what was in the approved plant list on the land development plans. This happens sometimes where species get swapped out, but ultimately what was planted meets the overall intent and purpose of the landscape plan. So Pannoni's landscape architect did review it and affirmed that it was suitable. So while it doesn't meet the specifics of the land development plan, sometimes it's a matter of species availability or some other reason. So as long as we have the same number of plantings in the approved location and it ultimately meets the same goal of final landscape effect, then it's
That's fine.
then there's no issue with it.
And then there's 2 trees, so they owe us some trees, and then there were 2 trees that got damaged, and they're gonna monitor the health of that, and if those die, do they have to replace them?
Yeah, so there is a 18-month maintenance bond for all installed landscaping. So once we kind of do the final punch list, it's an 18-month timeline. So if anything dies in the interim, then the developer would be responsible for it.
Okay.
Anything after that is on the property owner to maintain.
Joe, I know you're championing.
I had similar concerns when I saw the Pannoni report come through. So I visited the site today, and it looks like they actually have planted all the trees now, maybe subsequent to the report, but even the linden that they noted that was missing is there now.
Yes.
And a number of the other spots where Pannoni noted some deficiency, I was curious about. None of those refer to a lack of a tree. They refer to like some of the undergrowth kind of replacement. And it looked really good to me, honestly. You know, they've done a lot of planting there, and the plantings look good. In one case, they planted more trees than were shown.
Good, I think it was that linden, because that's the exact house that I'm thinking of, because it's so bright, I mean, it's radically different.
Yeah.
So the tree cover really does provide something, but, okay, so that linen tree is there.
Looks like it.
And I assume these trees are all gonna grow bigger and fill out, right?
They're meant to, yes.
Right, I mean, that's the whole
As
intent.
trees
I
do.
think that's the concern of, since I live on that block and I've heard a lot from the neighbors. And it is sort of shocking if you walk down Shirley Road, like you can look through and see the development in a way that, you wouldn't have seen before the construction started, because there was basically drawn a wall,
I understand.
just for a floral wall, for lack of a better term, so, you know, it would be good maybe to reassure my neighbors that this stuff is gonna get taller and fill out and hopefully create a little bit of a site wall, I guess. I don't know what to call it.
Visual buffer.
Yeah, visual buffer, there we go.
All right. Any other discussion of the 651? All right, let's vote to close the line of credit for the 6050 Montgomery Avenue land development plan. All those in favor? Okay, it is unanimous. 9H is the sliding glass door.
I move that Borough Council approve the expenditure of capital funds for the replacement of sliding glass doors at 100 Conway.
Second.
Okay.
So a couple weeks ago, the sliding glass doors that we have, these are our ADA doors. They stopped working. The doors are quite old. We had a technician come out and repair them. He did make a comment that he was shocked that these things are still operational at all. So
We
they
get that a
lot. They have since still been a little bit wonky even after the repair. And again, because of the age and because we do rely on them for our ADA access and because we do have New Horizons operating in our building 5 days a week, whose attendees use that door for majority of egress, we felt that it was suitable to go ahead and replace those doors. This is already identified in our capital improvements plan. It was originally targeted for 2027, but given that these are potentially on the fritz, we don't want to get into a situation where we try to push our luck and have the doors break and not be able to repair them or have them be out of service for too long. The lead time anyway on these materials is another 10 to 12 weeks, so we don't want to be caught in a situation where the doors are completely broken, not able to be fixed, and be shuttered for 3 months. So the recommendation is to go ahead and replace them this year. The funds that we have budgeted for capital projects for this building for this year is $37,500. That was originally to cover the cost of the vestibule, and since the vestibule is coming in under cost, based on our initial cost estimates that we received for the doors, that will fit within that budget. So between the vestibule and the doors, we are still within our budgeted amounts for this year. So it is staff's recommendation for council to go ahead and approve the replacement of these doors for this year.
Okay. And specifically what we'd be approving is there are a couple bids outstanding on this, so we'd be approving the lowest reasonable bid on the door replacement.
Correct.
Any comments from council? I think we have to have our ADA accessible door.
I said to Jim, I want Star Trek sound effects.
Jeff?
I'll see if that's an ad alternate.
I contribute
Make
to
it
the
make
borough.
it so.
The additional cost, if it's not too
Yeah, have a little sound button at the top.
I'd also note that Borough Hall is a polling place.
Oh, yeah.
And heavily
Yeah,
used by the general public for polling. So we want to make sure that's in place for the people who need to use it during voting day.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, we won't have it in time for
We
the
won't
primary.
have it for the primary, but we should have it for the general.
Okay, further discussion? All right, let's vote to authorize the sliding glass door replacement. All those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Employee handbook. I think we're not doing this one.
Yeah, we told,
Tabling this matter.
Okay.
and
Maybe we
that's
just
my
won't bring it up.
fault. I had an IT meltdown. I had given some suggestions in F&A, and somehow I didn't get to keep those suggestions to pass on to the rest of you in council. Which I want to present to you folks before the vote, so that's on me, and I will bring it back to you. I'm gonna have to recreate the wheel and bring it back. But I'm gonna email you soon. I've got now a Word version, so I can put my edits in.
we can discuss it at the workshop meeting if we so choose. Intern position.
Right, so we
No,
are.
we need a motion first.
I'm sorry.
I will move to approve the intern position.
Is there a second?
Second.
No.
We are seeking to hire a summer intern. This would be likely a part-time and an unpaid position. Looking to get a qualified and interested undergraduate student who is interested in learning about local government. We have a number of projects that we feel would be very suitable for that age and that skill set, that skill level that they would be coming to us with. So a couple of projects for various research, policy analysis, some budget analysis, taking a look at some of our fees, and kind of overall learning the ropes of what it means to be in local government. So we already have a couple of projects lined up that we think would be really well suited. So we're just looking for blessing to go ahead and start putting out some feelers for some folks interested, getting some interviews set up, and having somebody hired to start once the semester is over.
Okay.
Some of the local high schools for the seniors have the seniors work on projects as opposed to going to classes for the last part of the year.
Oh God, don't put high school senior project, okay.
Finish your thought and then
But
you
I
can
mean, to
object.
get like, a set of work done or something, they get credit for it.
Okay.
And it's an unpaid. Huh?
They're not at the height of their productivity at that point. in their
You know,
career.
but I just feel that.
There are exceptions.
Yeah, Friend Central did it and the kids were outstanding.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we had also, I don't think we've talked about it at larger council, but I have wanted to start a junior council position. So PSABs actually, they must have been reading my mind because we got the email, I think the day after I had mentioned it to Cindy and Fred. But there's a lot of great language that PSABs has put out about how to have a junior council person. So my hope was to get that program started so that we could have somebody join us. So this would be a high school level person who would be interested in coming in and serving as a junior council member.
Sure.
Starting in the fall semester. So the school year, the 25-26 school year would be when we would look at onboarding our first junior council member. So I was going to introduce that at some point once I had a little bit more time to read through some of the program materials, but anyway, that is something that I also want to do. So in building on this theme of empowering our young people to engage in civics with our Gold Award Girl Scouts and our interns and our junior council members, love to open up the opportunity to learn and grow with the Narberth community.
I'm sure there are age-appropriate tasks that you could fund for them to help out with. That would be helpful for both of us.
So-
They could learn, we could get a little ahead.
Great, well, I appreciate knowing about that opportunity.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking that, so Cass does chapter, which I had not heard of before coming out here, but one of the things they have to do is learn Robert's Rules of Order. And Cass knows that.
Perfect.
Well, no, I mean, they
Family
would be
to.
calling me out, like, no, that's not how you do it. I'm worried.
I'm so glad we have that in common.
Yeah.
So Noah actually learned Robert's Rules of Order.
Exactly.
Strangely enough, in TSA, that was one of the
Yeah, that's TSA.
categories.
That's what I'm talking about. Chapter
Oh,
is a
TSA.
branch of TSA.
Oh, okay.
And the knowledge, the amount of knowledge of Robert's Rules of Order is
Yes, it's insane. But he,
It's a great scavenger hunt for
Exceptional.
next time.
Oh boy. Anyway, we'll be on have to be on our best behavior. Okay, so right now the motion on the floor is about the intern position. Any other discussion about the intern position? All right, let's vote on approving the intern position. All those in favor? Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. We have one discussion item, which is about appointment policy. So, Jim, do you want to start us
Well,
off here? I think we're done with all of our
So
business.
this is something we are working through in finance and administration. We did not have time for a substantial discussion tonight, so it's kind of moving a little slowly. But the idea in general is to come up with guidelines and a timeline for application and consideration, and for the various circumstances where a vacancy may occur in the boards and commissions. The things we've mentioned at this point were to have a formal application deadline for each vacancy, maybe have an evaluation period once the deadline closes, and have a kind of consideration period. There's a lot we have to talk about, we have to get some opinions on about whether, how much the sitting boards and commissions have, whether they can have any input, sort of a commentary about, them recommending somebody should get receive an appointment. And what else is there? Also the idea that perhaps once appointment names have been gathered, that they should have some support from council members before moving to the agenda, in particular to the consent agenda. Otherwise, we don't really have any eyes on these people at all, or just to see that they have support and encourage more input.
Okay, we know these suggestions, I think we're all in the packet. Anybody have comments?
I appreciate you kind of taking the lead to surface this discussion.
I mean, my general thought is if somebody steps forward for an open position on a board, it would have to be exceptional circumstances for us to say no. I mean, I recognize that some people might be disagreeable, or we might not agree with them on whatever topic. But I mean, if somebody's coming forward, are we really not going to appoint them to an open position if they're the applicant?
Well, yeah.
Well, unless it's like,
So-
we had one instance where like somebody couldn't make the meetings. That's a totally valid reason to say no.
Yeah, but
this isn't gonna work. But like.
Well, there could be a conflict that
Yeah.
we identified that maybe.
Yeah, like if we say, well, no, you can't do this because this is, you're an attorney, you're representing this and whatever, but there's very specific reasons we can say no.
I'll just note that sometimes the first time we hear about people putting themselves for appointment, particularly those council members who are not in leadership, the first time we hear about it is when it shows up on the agenda, and we have just a couple of days to say, and wonder whether we can.
And it also puts us in a weird position, like if someone's name is listed on the agenda already, then for us to ask for more time or whatever, it puts us in the weird position of having to punt on someone who they know that their name's already on the agenda. Which the process element of that doesn't make as much sense.
I mean, I think the idea is just to formalize this a little bit more, and also, we have been fortunate once or twice to actually have two people applying for one position.
That's the more
I think
interesting
that's what we really even want to address even more. It's just, how are we going to do this comparatively, as opposed to just reading what they wrote. I would have liked to have talked to each of those people, and I didn't feel like I had time to do that, as opposed to, figuring out from other council members, oh yeah, I know this person, I can vouch for them, or I worked with them, or whatever. Just giving us a little more opportunity to sort of formalize, I guess, the process.
Yeah.
I am sensitive to the idea of not being such a pain in the butt that people are going to be like, I don't want to bother. On the other hand, if they can't bother to go through the application process,
then are you really gonna?
How good a member are they going to, I think there's a little bit where you want to do it so that they're not just trying to do it to build their resume, or they don't really appreciate how much work it is. Like, I've seen that happen, not so much on the boards and commissions, but, people who run for office and then get into it. I mean, there have been school board members who've lasted 6 months, who was like, oh my God, I had no idea this was such a thing. Resigned.
I think it would be good to ask people to attend one meeting of whatever board you're planning to attend, and ask them to go.
Yeah, and that would give them that opportunity.
I mean, if it meets regularly, if it doesn't meet regularly.
Yeah.
So about your other idea of having.
If I can make a quick
go ahead,
comment.
Jean. I see your hand up. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think in the spirit of really just kind of formalizing this process, I think it's not only for all of council members and staff to know what the process is, but also the people who are applying to these boards and commissions to know from their standpoint what the process is and what to expect, because I think a lot of people, they don't know. And also, I think we should incorporate the opportunity for them to reach out to council members or to, if they have any questions about things like that, because they don't always know that they are able to do that or that they should do that before applying for a board and commission position. So just to really kind of put that information out there and formalize that, I think that will be helpful for both ends.
Okay. So if we asked, or rather, if council got applications either 2 weeks or a month before the decision, maybe that might give us time to.
Yeah, something like that.
So if we incorporate some sort of, here's when the application deadline is, here's when council's going to vote on it, and then what's a little time in between.
Yeah, I think that'd go a long way.
That might help. Okay. Other thoughts from council members? All right, well, I'd say keep working on this, and then, yeah. Okay, that is our business. The monthly reports are filed, and the HARB annual report is in the packet. So if anybody's interested in reviewing what the HARB does, it's I found it interesting reading. Any new business?
You guys are all aware that our esteemed head of government, whose name I won't say, signed a ordinance yesterday, I believe, yesterday morning, or maybe the day before, directing all federal government agencies to get rid of their plastic straw bans if they have them, and must get rid of paper straws and replace them with plastic straws. And I suspect it won't be long before there are inquiries to local governments who have federal contracts, not naming names, as to whether they have such bans and might be strong-armed into having to repeal them if they want federal contract money. Speaking in broad hypothetical.
Yeah.
So you need to be aware of that.
So petty. All right.
I know.
We'll see if that happens.
Yeah.
Thanks for the notification.
Yeah,
I'm not going to proactively change any of our policies.
No, I don't want to. I just want to put it on our agenda, or in everybody's line of sight, because the first, as soon as I saw it, I thought, this might come to us someday.
Okay. Any other new business? Any old business? Comments for the good of council?
Go ahead.
I do have one piece of good news for the borough. The signs are finally up. Maluga Restaurant looks to be coming to where Rickland's, the former Rickland's was. So we are excited to have them. It is a Mediterranean Yemeni restaurant, and it looks absolutely delicious. So a welcome addition to the borough.
Any opening date or?
I don't have but
Not
the
to
signs are
exceed
up.
date or-
The signs are up.
And they have put on their website, like at the bottom of their website, it kind of appears like, whatever that, what's it called, something on the main line, so they're like.
Yeah.
Maluka Main Line.
Maluka main
Maluka
line.
But they don't have an opening spring 24 sign, like, with
They do have their contracts checked, permit checked. And
They're hiring.
Yeah, actually, yeah, now I know they're hiring. They got one of the top 20 restaurants.
They're supposed to be fantastic.
They have vegan options,
Yeah.
which is terrific for the people around here. A lot of people like that as an option. They have meat options for those who enjoy their meat. They have plenty of hummus and really delicious looking food.
I think we
Middle
should
Eastern
arrange a
restaurant.
field trip down to Old City one night.
What's that?
I think we should arrange a field
There we
trip.
go.
There you
That'd be a
go.
lot of fun for
Is
us to
it
go down.
Old City or
Yeah, Old
16th
City.
and Chestnut, I thought, no?
Why bother? They're coming here.
Yeah. No, they are, oh, that's great.
I'm gonna save my appetite for
Old City.
Norbert. Yeah.
We'll take Septa down.
Yeah.
Yeah, take some.
There you go.
Don't people Chestnut, second and
Yeah,
Chestnut.
Second and Chestnut, right?
Yeah. Great.
Okay, that is good news, but Jim had something you wanted to add too.
Oh, I wanted to note that the shade tree planting for spring planting was last weekend, and they planted 30 trees around the borough. I wanted to commend the Shade Tree Commission members who are really work hard at organizing this. There's a lot more than you'd think goes into coordinate this kind of planting. And also to Jeff and the Public Works crew for supporting the planting. It was a rainy, muddy day, but very satisfying. And maybe you noticed some trees, new trees around town. Say a small thank you to the Shade Tree Commission.
Big thank you. That's-
I'll give you a sufficiently sized thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we will have an executive session after this meeting to discuss a personnel matter, contract services, and a lease issue. Is that it? Anything else? Okay, that's it. We will not return into session afterwards, take a vote. So I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? All right, we are voting to adjourn. All those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Do we need a couple
The chief
minutes?